Okay, greetings Globalers. It is time for you guys to get the FF5 collaboration, something that you guys have been asking about since it started on JP, to which I'll start this video again by reminding, 1 month. It's about 1 month. From whenever JP gets it, you guys have to wait about 1 month to get yours version, or the update in your game. Unless you ask me. If you ever ask me, it's 1 month and plus 1 extra week, but for you only. Sorry, them's the rules. So yeah, the FF5 collaboration is coming back for global. I noticed that you guys are having limited guild battle, you are having the FF5 event, and you know, your schedule maintenance and everything like that. So let's talk about the FF5 collaborations, because the FF5 collaboration should also come at the same time as a few other things to do with the story, specifically maybe, you know, a new version of Mont that is actually quite good. So let me start this video by talking a little bit about what's been going on in JP, because I haven't been doing much in the way of videos because I've been doing some studying and some watching of certain new animes that have come to Japan. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. So let me catch you up. Basically, it's been essentially a nothing week. I think that a lot of JP players are pretty burnt out and have already invested heavily into the new version of Mont, which looked pretty good, X-Death or Gilgamesh, or are just doing the evasion thing. Either way, I think most people on JP are pretty tired of the more recent updates and kind of given Mavia a bit of a miss. Mavia looks strong, but so far from what I've seen, and there hasn't been too terribly much, it doesn't seem like she's really ignited a lot of inspiration like the time that most of the FF5's New Year's stuff came out. That was the biggest hype moment for a little while. I would say that Gilgamesh and Mavia, being good characters, very strong characters still, but haven't exactly lit a fire under JP players' butts. And this tends to happen every year. So before we go any further, there really hasn't been an update from most sources about team composition and what are considered to be the strongest teams. There really hasn't been any movement on that on any website. So if you're wondering about that, that's basically where we are. In terms of like the tier list, there hasn't been any new tier lists. This is essentially pretty much what I would say is really haven't seen any movement, except Mavia is probably in that triple S tier from what I have seen. Well, maybe a little bit lower on that triple S tier, possibly into double S. But point is, there's all 4 characters that will be coming out between now and the time that you catch up to where JP currently is, are all good options. As for what the forecast essentially looks like into the future, well, JP will be getting a February 1st character, and if it's anything like last year, seasonal characters are pretty much on their way out. I'd be surprised if we're getting a Valentine's Day character this year, since it seems like seasonals are pretty much out the window. Last year, if you remember, February 14th for JP was the reissue of Final Fantasy 13. So I would expect into February, we will probably see another reissue of an old collaboration, possibly FF9. Although with the way announcements are and everything, you know, I think the biggest hints will be if anything does come out of the Square camp into February. As I have said previously, I've heard rumors that there would be a February showcase for Square Enix, and that kind of makes sense, seeing that they don't have too terribly much. But then there's also the Switch 2 thing that is happening now in April, and you know, PlayStation event that's probably happening in February, and possibly even another Nintendo Direct happening in February. So a lot of hearsay and rumors right now, but if it is meant to, you know, collide against something, I think FF9's a possibility. I don't think we'll see a new collaboration for at least a little bit longer, if people are wondering about that. So yes, probably a reissue, but there are, you know, rumblings, of course, of another collaboration in the near future. So now, circulating all the way back to that, which isn't bad for about 5 minutes into this video, Gilgamesh and Gilgamesh's VC. Where are they best? What do I like about them? And do I think that they are worth the investment? We're not going to talk about XDeath yet because, well, we're just not, it's not XDeath's week. And I've talked about XDeath extensively in the past. So Gilgamesh, let's give him a little more limelight, because I actually do have Gilgamesh and I do like a lot of stuff about him, even though, as you guys have voted, I am to ignore fire elemental characters, but I can still make videos about them. I think that Gilgamesh is really neat. He's a super interesting and strong spear character, the first one to come along in a while. A lot of JP players for a little bit kind of thought that he would be best in and with covering evade. I don't particularly like that. I just don't I still think that team that I reported on earlier, it was a big nothing burger in terms of, like, it popped up in Peachin's video and it really hasn't appeared anywhere else since. Like, Peachin isn't even testing with that team anymore, which doesn't really indicate that that was Gilgamesh's best place. But I do think that Gilgamesh is actually a pretty damn good character still. If you have Ramada, if you want to do like spear-based stuff, this is a fun character to have. If you like the fire element, this is a great character to throw into a fire elemental team. Vary up your damage a little bit. Works well with AC Sephiroth if you haven't really invested in a character for a while. If you're a fire elemental player, this is a good time to invest in that. And the VC as well synergizes between those two characters, also covers axes, gloves, and books. Nice little VC that is just good for Gilgamesh and good for other spear characters. Like, if you're a spear type person, this is definitely the week for you. Invest in it, have some fun, enjoy, sort of thing. Gilgamesh is not the highest of tier characters. He never found a highest tier team, and he is just a competently really good character to put in combination with other characters. Again, my favorite combo with this guy is probably with Ramada. You know, there's just fire and thunder synergy there. You can throw a healer in the background or potentially a tank, your choice, and do well. And the new VC does support well. If you have Summer Resnick too, this feels like a pretty obvious thing for me. That's something that improves the Ramada and Gilgamesh grouping. And then, like, if you've gone for that spear group, you don't really need to worry about XDeath. You don't necessarily need to go with Mont or any of the like shooting characters that have come up recently. And you can be happy time hunting ice-based teams. If you're finding there's a lot of ice teams out there, this character will serve you quite well for just kind of getting through a bunch of weeks. And again, like FF5, going back and talking about FF5 as a general collaboration, it's a nice little collaboration if you haven't, if you have some of the older characters. Again, I've seen some Ferrises around, really haven't gone too far over the moon for me with her. I think the best I've seen her with is with like an Exia. That is kind of the best I've seen from her. Bart's with Light Veritas or just other light elemental characters that have come around or are about to come around do quite well together. So Bart's is another character that I think is actually probably the best investment. And as for, of course, Lena, I have seen hide nor hair of her anywhere on JP. For the weeks I've been playing in Arena and playing more with characters such as XDeath, it just hasn't materialized anything for Lena. So I do think that Lena is perfectly good for if you're just, you know, into quests and not so worried about PvE and you like Lena, go for it kind of thing. But if you're planning on spending those FF5 resources, Lena would be my lowest priority, along with Varus as well. Bart's would be generally higher, and then Gilgamesh, if you're going for him, probably is where you should be chucking the most of your orbs, along with Xdeath. Like, the two new characters are by far and away the most powerful thing coming out of those FF5 collaborations. But if you're like me, and I am probably a little bit lucky on this one to say that I have, you know, Bartz, Lena, Varus, Gilgamesh, and Xdeath. I would just like to remind, don't forget that in the shop, there will be, of course, all of the orbs that you can get for gold, the character shards in there. That's a great source of FF5 collaboration orbs. Don't forget about it. It'd be very, very nice. But yeah, Xdeath will be coming in the very near future after Gilgamesh. I think he's scheduled for 1 week later. So yeah, keep in mind that. Plan ahead for which characters you want. But at this point, JP really isn't going to have probably much of any hype this week. Still waiting for any news to drop here. So if you're curious about that, should just be a VC week, and I imagine a pretty low-key VC week for JP as we kind of wrap up January. And then just start waiting for the next month to begin, the month of love. So yeah. Oh, actually, that news just popped, and I'll give you a little bit of a hint now. There actually is a brand new Esper coming to the game with JP's next update. Find out more a little later. Take care. See ya.